G'day Reefers, I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Welcome to Gallery Aquatica TV. Today we're going to show you how to install a UV Twist 57 watt into a CADE aquarium. Now the CADE behind me is the Reef Royale relocation CADE 2100, but the system that we use will work on any of the Pro Reef models, so you should be able to get something out of this video regardless of which CADE that you have. Now let's start by having a look at all the items we're going to use for our installation. We have our Gallery Aquatica hose tails, we have some 16mm hose, we've got a drill with some drill bits, PVC cement, a spanner kit, nuts and bolts, and a few other bits and pieces. So now let's start by assembling our UV Twist 57 watt. We've come outside because we're going to be using PVC cement and I don't want to make a mess. We'll start by opening up our sterilizer and I'll show you what you get in it. Power supply. So you get two of these brackets. Now these are going to be one of the key parts. We'll look at those closer in a minute. And now we've got the body of the skimmer wrapped up with the bulb. We'll put the bulb away for a minute. What we're going to do, these are the collars that are going to allow us to attach our hose tail fittings. So I'll just open these up. So these are an exclusive item to Gallery Aquatica. It's basically just a hose tail that adapts to the same hose that the CADE manifold takes, so it's a very convenient size, so 16mm or 1622 Aqua One hose. And we're just going to glue this together into the collar, like so, and thread tape the hose tail into the center part. So we'll put that together now. So I'm just going to glue this center part first and thread tape it at the end. All right. And now this is going to glue in to the collar. Probably use more PVC cement than is required. I like to make sure I get a good seal. Okay, so we'll let that sit for a couple of minutes and we'll do the next one. All right, so now we'll thread tape our hose tail. One of the key elements of installing these is to ensure that you don't get any leaks. So I'm going to be a little bit generous with the thread tape. And most importantly, when you've completed the installation and you turn it on, you want to check each of these points that we've glued and thread taped to make sure that they're not leaking. Okay, so you want it to be tight with the last couple of twists. All right, perfect. So now we've got our UV Twist. So as I said, this is the body of the unit. So we've got a quartz sleeve that runs down the center, and our bulb is going to sit down through the top. So I'm going to place that in now. So you want to be really careful with your bulb. You want to try not to touch it too much. You certainly don't want to get it wet. And I'm just going to place the pins of our power supply, or actually, sorry, this part here, onto the pins of the bulb. Okay, like so. And then I'll feed it into the unit. And this top part comes down, screws on, and before you tighten this point here, you can actually move backwards and forwards the bulb within the unit. I'm just going to have it so that I can see the blue end of the bulb, and this makes it easier to know when the UV is actually on and the bulb is lit up. All right. We'll also just make sure that it's all tight and well sealed. Now we can put our hose tails and our fittings on. Make sure that's nice and tight so there's no leaks. So that's our UV sterilizer ready to go, all sealed up. Now with these brackets, they actually attach onto the twist like so, and you can squeeze them tight so that they hold nice and firm. And the reason why I want these in place is because I want to line up the brackets with the position on the CADE that we're going to install it. So let's take our UV twist to the CADE and I'll show you exactly where we're going to install it. We're going to put our UV sterilizer on the inside wall on the right hand side above the sump. Now the reason why we're putting it here is because it's very easy to feed from the manifold to one of the outlets or one of the fittings on the UV sterilizer, but probably most importantly, it's a really good position to mount the UV so that you can actually remove the bulb very easily in the future to change it over without having to take the whole thing down or move it at all. It's a perfect location for the CADE Pro Reefs. Now this is the 2100, so there is a little bit more space to work with on this model than there is on some of the smaller models, but they still will fit. You just have to be a bit more particular about getting the position right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at exactly where I want it. Now that's about right there. I have to think about the door and ensure that the door is going to comfortably close with the position of the cord there, but that's where I want it. So I've just got a felt pen and I'm just going to mark where the brackets are sitting currently. All right, so that's exactly where I want it. Now what I'm going to do is drill a couple of holes in the brackets that we'll be able to use to put a bolt through and bolt it onto the inside wall of the CADE. I've taken the brackets off our UV sterilizer, and what I'm going to do is drill a hole down the center and use a bolt to bolt it onto the inside panel of the cabinet. So I've chosen a bolt that is the right length so that it will comfortably go through the base of the bracket as well as through that side panel and the nut that we can then screw on to tighten it. So I've got a drill bit which is the right size for the bolt that we're using, and I'm just going to drill straight down the center. If you have a vise or something to hold this in, it's probably a good idea, but it's relatively soft plastic and it's easy to do. All right, now I'm just going to check that our bolt fits through, and it does. Perfect. All right, now to do the other one. So now we have to go back to the tank and mark the position for holes on that internal wall. I'm just putting a little bit of pen on the end of the bolt with the idea that I'll hopefully be able to mark it. Okay. So I've got our 2 spots. Now I'm just going to check in the cupboard next door to make sure we don't have any power supplies in the way. So now I'll put the bolt on from the other side, the nut on. Okay. So now we have our brackets in position. We have to open them up so that we can then put our UV twist in, and this can be the hard part. I'm gonna spread the brackets open. Okay, now this one. All right, we tighten those bracket clips. 1, 2, okay. Our UV twist is in position. We'll check that the door shuts. Beautiful, okay. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is a little trick to make this a bit neater. We're actually going to take the bulb fitting or the power supply off so that we can have the power supply in the cabinet next door. I'm going to feed it through and reattach it. So I'm going to feed this through the bottom hole. I'm going to go up this way, reattach. Now we have to attach our 16-22mm hose onto the UV sterilizer, and I'm just going to push it straight on like so. And it's going to attach to this manifold point here. So I'll just measure it up, get up there, cut it. It's going to go on here. Now I'm actually going to take this manifold point off. We previously glued this fitting into the plumbing, and I'm just going to go straight on as deep as I can. Then the lock nut goes down over it, securing it in place. And then we put this back on the manifold. So with the UV twists, you can actually feed into either side. So either side can be the inlet, either side can be the outlet. Obviously we're going from the manifold to here, so this is the obvious choice. Now we're going to have a bit of hose that goes down, just straight below it really. Potentially we could be strategic with where the water feeds back into the sump and maybe have it go into an area where we want more flow. But for now, we'll just go straight down. And these Gallery Aquatica hose tails are a pretty secure fit on the 16-22mm hose. But to be extra sure, I've got a large cable tie. Just gonna put that around and do the same on the rear one. So there you have it. We have our UV twist, 57 watt, perfectly mounted on the inside of this CADE 2100. We have it feeding from a manifold and then down into the sump. Absolutely perfect. The last thing we have to do is turn the UV sterilizer on. And now by that I mean the flow to the UV sterilizer. So what we're going to do, we're going to open up our manifold point. It's flushing the air out of the UV. See the water coming down here. So it's filling up. It's always important to have water flowing through your UV sterilizer when the tube is on. You can potentially have problems where the tube will overheat if there's no water passing through it. So I'm actually going to open this up a little bit faster to flush out the air more quickly, and I'll slow it down a bit. The flow rate that goes through your UV sterilizer is also important, And so part of the reason why I like having it with this configuration is it means that we can see the water that's coming out from the UV sterilizer, and we can potentially measure the volume and work out exactly what the flow rate is, so we can work out our exposure rating for the UV sterilizer. Now, I typically like to run around about 1,000 litres an hour through the UV. So I'm going to turn this up a little bit. All right, I think that's probably about 1,000 litres an hour or so. But like I said, you can of course measure it if you want to be very precise. It's also good just to be able to see that you do have water going through the UV sterilizer. And we'll also check for leaks. We're checking at any of the places that we glued or used the thread tape. We're checking at our manifold point, making sure that there's no leaks there. But everything looks pretty good. And now what we have to do is switch on the power to the light and check that it's running, and then that's job done. The UV Twist 57 watt is one of the most popular UV sterilizers on the Australian market. Now that's because of its compact size, its high wattage, it's very good value for money, but most importantly, it's very easy to get replacement parts, such as the replacement bulbs. Now we recommend that you replace the bulbs at least every 12 months to get maximum exposure out of your sterilizer unit. You've seen us install it into the CADE 2100 behind us, and we've put it in a position that does allow for easy removal and replacement of the bulb. And we'll show you us doing that in future episodes of Gallery Aquatica TV. But for now, that's today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cameron Fish Guy. Happy reefing.